Hello November, when nature forgets the script and goes on full stand-up comedy mode, here's what you get. Animals caught in the act of being hilarious. These are some of the finalists of the Comedy Wildlife Photography Awards. Welcome to Kaleidoscope, where stories truly matter and we're all up for that feel-good factor. From the Kaleidoscope studios, Nimshi Hirimbura, Bowls for Soul, and swift, sharp and straight to the point CDB News in a They are more than bowls, they are vessels of imagination. On Kaleidoscope Vibe, we are at the Saskia Fernando Gallery looking at how each unglazed ceramic surface becomes a canvas, transformed into a reflection of artistry, community and purpose. And these are part of the A4A annual fundraiser, auctioned not just as collector's pieces but as catalysts of change. Proceeds go directly towards mentoring and empowering emerging Sri Lankan artists, providing production grants, exhibition platforms and the creative guidance to shape their journeys. This year, 4 awardees have been chosen from a pool of 28 by an international panel of judges. Now in its 3rd year, the A4A Production Fund, sustained entirely by the artist community, stands as Sri Lanka's first publicly funded arts grant, a movement of solidarity, a vision where artists uplift artists. Catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. Follow, like and subscribe to keep the stories coming your way. A heartfelt salute to our partners SriLanka Live, CDB and The Daily Morning for powering every story we tell.
She wins with CDB Wings, exclusive financial solutions for women.
Fast, fresh and to the point, here's your weekly news in a flash with CDB News in a blink. Vehicle imports to Sri Lanka surged in September, resulting in 2025's first current account deficit at $183 million. Sri Lanka's state-owned enterprises have a declining profit to 227.8 billion rupees from last year's 280.7 billion rupees. Only 30% of Sri Lanka's top income earners can afford a house from their lifetime earnings. Even the basics in Maslow's hierarchy of needs goes unfulfilled. Markets on the move from oil to gold to stocks. Here's how the week played out this week. The All Share Price Index at the Colombo Stock Exchange is heading for a new high of 23,000 points, even as other investment opportunities paled in comparison to the phenomenal gains of the ASPI. Oil prices moved down slightly to below $61 per barrel as investors read OPEC Plus's decision to pause output hikes in the first quarter of 2026 as a signal of oversupply in the market. Gold was trading at below $4,000 per ounce this week as the US dollar was at a 3-month high, while reduced chances of another US interest rate cut in December and easing US-China trade tensions reduced demand for the precious metal. The Maldives becomes the first country to ban smoking for anyone born after the 1st of January 2007. India wins the Women's Cricket World Cup for the first time ever. And Rosewood, Hong Kong becomes the world's best hotel after only being opened for 6 years.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. SriLanka Life.
On Kaleidoscope SriLanka Life Dialogues this week, it's Justice for Nature. From fighting air pollution in Colombo to protecting Golface Green and safeguarding Vilpattu, the Environmental Foundation Limited has taken some of Sri Lanka's most critical environmental battles to court. Today on Kaleidoscope, we speak with EFL's Head of Legal, Nimshi Hirambura, to discuss how these cases are reshaping justice and conservation. From clean air to safeguarding Golface Green, EFL has always been pivotal in a lot of court battles. What makes litigation a powerful tool for your fight for the environment?
Actually, at EFL, we do not right away go into court. We use tools like Right to Information Act, and then we also send letters to authorities, and we try our best to resolve it beforehand. But the failure of which litigation becomes a very powerful tool because it actually forces accountability, and also it could lead to legal precedents that protect the environment for generations to come.
Looking back, what do you see as the foundation's biggest impact thus far?
Now environmental protection is being identified as something that can be brought before court and safeguarded. It began from EFL's first case in 1984 and it continues up to date. Just to give a brief understanding, our constitution protects several rights, like you have right to equality, you have freedom of movement, you have freedom of speech, but this right to a clean and a healthy environment is not guaranteed. It's not explicitly laid down in the constitution. So it's all these case law that helps us to go to court and protect it. So I believe it's the precedents that have been set by EFL that is the biggest impact.
So the vehicle emission test was a direct outcome of the air pollution case that was filed by EFL. But do you see gaps that still need legal or policy intervention?
This vehicle emission testing, it was actually one of the cases that was filed by EFL in the Supreme Court regarding air pollution in the Colombo area, which identified vehicle emissions as one of the biggest causes. And this case brought about this vehicle emission testing requirement, which is in fact a very positive first step because now all the vehicles should undergo it to obtain their annual license. However, the problem is actually not yet completely solved because people have found ways to bypass the system. So I believe like much stronger enforcement and also if possible random regular checks might be required to make it truly effective.
So the Golface case, for instance, was a really landmark case in preserving public spaces. How significant was this case in actually establishing legal precedent for protecting other urban communities in Sri Lanka?
Golface Green case is in fact a very significant case. In that case, court ruled that the Urban Development Authority had no authority to lease out the Golface. So it reinforced the idea that these public spaces in fact belong to people and should not be and it must be actually left for public use. So this case can in fact be used as a legal precedent in so many other cases in order to protect our public spaces, to like use this and say that in this case it was ruled so it has to continue as such.
So the Vilpattu illegal road case that was terminated with an undertaking by the state. Does this provide adequate protection for Vilpattu or does it leave our parks vulnerable to threats?
In that case, the state actually undertook that public through traffic across the park will not be permitted and also entry will be as per the law. And the law clearly states that to enter into a national park, you need a permit and that permit will also only be given to study and observe the plants and animals there. So it is in fact a very good positive outcome when it comes to stopping road misuse. But that does not mean that illegal activities inside Vilpattu will completely stop. In fact, even right now there is an ongoing litigation regarding several illegal constructions of houses inside the park.
What systemic reforms do you believe are most critical in ensuring Sri Lanka's environment is protected for the next generation or two?
There are actually so many that I could think of, but on the top of my head, I believe that if we can bring in this right to a clean and healthy environment into our constitution, that will be a great step forward. And also justice is very expensive. It's not easy for the general public to go and fight against their environmental rights. If you have something like a green court in Sri Lanka, I think it will be much easier for the public also to go and fight their own cases. So it will make litigation much more accessible. We have strong laws, but when it comes to enforcement, it's a bit weak and it's better if there's like much stronger network among these entities. We in fact did a project very recently where we brought in all these enforcement agencies relevant to wildlife trade into one place, and there was like major changes when it comes to investigations and enforcement. It became much more stronger. So I believe if we can bring these key agencies relevant to environmental protection into one table and stronger network is built, there would be like wonders.
And there you have it. We'll be back next week with more stories and insights on Kaleidoscope.